The Nowata Methodist Church is happy to produce a lot of different content for the edification of Christ's church throughout the world. This daily segment that you're listening to right now corresponds with the Daily Bible Reading Challenge, which is hosted by Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. If you want to download the list of readings that they publish for yourself or learn more about this challenge, this initiative, go to biblereading.christkirk.com. I'm Jeffrey Rickman. I'm the pastor here in Nowata, and I read from the Berean Standard Bible, which you can also find at berean.bible. Consider subscribing to this podcast to be a part of this daily effort to grow in familiarity with and love of God's holy word. Let's dive in for today. Hey, I'm glad you've joined me to read scripture a little bit more. I'm Jeffrey. I'm glad to be reading scripture today. I'm getting one of my first moments of peace while on this trip to Georgia. I'm in an Airbnb in Edison, Georgia, and I'm all alone, and it's nice. So I'm able to be in a right spirit and kind of calm down and take my time with this. I hope you're in a similar place. So let's get back into the word. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 21. Then David came to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And when Ahimelech met David, he trembled and asked him, "Why are you alone? Why is no one with you?" "The king has given me a mission," David replied. "He told me no one is to know about the mission or charge, and I have directed my young men to meet me at a certain place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread, or whatever can be found." "There is no common bread on hand," the priest replied, "but there is some consecrated bread, provided that the young men have kept themselves from women." David answered, "Women have indeed been kept from us, as is usual when I set out. And the equipment of the young men is holy, as it is even on common missions, and all the more at this time." So the priest gave him the consecrated bread, since there was no bread there but the bread of the presence, which had been removed from before the Lord and replaced with hot bread on the day it was taken away. Now one of Saul's servants was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief shepherd for Saul. Then David asked Ahimelech, "Is there not a spear or sword on hand here? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business was urgent." The priest replied, "The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here. It is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want, you may take it, for there is none other but this one." And David said, "There is none like it. Give it to me." That day David fled from Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, "Is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing about him in their dances, saying, 'Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands'?" Now David took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and feigned madness in their hands. He scratched on the doors of the gate and let his saliva run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Look, you can see that the man is insane. Why have you brought him to me? Am I in need of madmen that you have brought this man to rave in my presence? Must this man come into my house?" 1 Samuel chapter 22. So David left Gath and took refuge in the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and the rest of his father's household heard about it, they went down to him there. And all who were distressed or indebted or discontented rallied around him, and he became their leader. About 400 men were with him. From there David went to Mizpeh of Moab, where he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and mother stay with you until I learn what God will do for me." So he left them in the care of the king of Moab, and they stayed with him the whole time David was in the stronghold. Then the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Depart and go into the land of Judah." So David left and went to the forest of Hereth. Soon Saul learned that David and his men had been discovered. At that time Saul was in Gibeah, sitting under the tamarisk tree on the hill at Gibeah, with his spear in hand and all his servants standing around him. Then Saul said to his servants, "Listen, men of Benjamin. Is the son of Jesse giving all of you fields and vineyards and making you commanders of thousands or hundreds? Is that why all of you have conspired against me? Not one of you told me that my own son had made a covenant with the son of Jesse. Not one of you has shown concern for me or revealed to me that my son has stirred up my own servant to lie in wait against me, as is the case today." But Doeg the Edomite, who had stationed himself with Saul's servants, answered, "I saw the son of Jesse come to Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, at Nob. Ahimelech inquired of the Lord for him and gave him provisions. He also gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king sent messengers to summon Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and his father's whole family, who were priests at Nob. And all of them came to the king. "Listen now, son of Ahitub," said Saul. "Here I am, my lord," he replied. And Saul asked him, "Why have you and the son of Jesse conspired against me? You gave him bread and a sword and inquired of God for him so that he could rise up against me to lie in wait, as he is doing today." Ahimelech answered the king, "Who among all your servants is as faithful as David, the king's son-in-law, the captain of your bodyguard, who is honored in your house? Was that day the first time I inquired of God for him? Far be it from me. Let not the king accuse your servant or any of my father's household, for your servant knew nothing of this whole affair, not in part or in whole." But the king replied, "You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." Then the king ordered the guards at his side, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because they too sided with David. For they knew he was fleeing, but they did not tell me." But the king's servants would not lift a hand to strike the priests of the Lord. So the king ordered Doeg, "You turn and strike down the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck down the priests himself. On that day he killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He also put to the sword Nob, the city of the priests, with its men and women, children and infants, oxen, donkeys, and sheep. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, escaped. His name was Abiathar, and he fled to David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. Then David said to Abiathar, "I knew that Doeg the Edomite was there that day, and that he was sure to tell Saul. I myself am responsible for the lives of everyone in your father's house. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, for he who seeks your life is seeking mine as well. You will be safe with me." 1 Samuel chapter 23. Now it was reported to David, "Look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and looting the threshing floors." So David inquired of the Lord, "Should I go and attack these Philistines?" And the Lord said to David, "Go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah." But David's men said to him, "Look, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines?" Once again David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered him, "Go at once to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into your hand." Then David and his men went to Keilah, fought against the Philistines, and carried off their livestock, striking them with a mighty blow. So David saved the people of Keilah. Now Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, had brought the ephod with him when he fled to David at Keilah. When Saul was told that David had gone to Keilah, he said, "God has delivered him into my hand, for he has trapped himself by entering a town with gates and bars." Then Saul summoned all his troops to go to war at Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David learned that Saul was plotting evil against him, he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the ephod." And David said, "O Lord God of Israel, your servant has heard that Saul intends to come to Keilah and destroy the city on my account. Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, God of Israel, please tell your servant." "He will," said the Lord. So David asked, "Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me and my men into the hand of Saul?" "They will," said the Lord. Then David and his men, about 600 strong, set out and departed from Keilah, moving from place to place. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he declined to go forth. And David stayed in the wilderness strongholds and in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. Day after day Saul searched for him, but God would not deliver David into his hand. While David was in Horesh in the wilderness of Ziph, he saw that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan came to David in Horesh and strengthened his hand in God, saying, "Do not be afraid, for my father Saul will never lay a hand on you, and you will be king over Israel, and I will be your second in command. Even my father Saul knows this is true." So the two of them made a covenant before the Lord, and David remained in Horesh while Jonathan went home. Then the Ziphites came up to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hill of Hachilah, south of Jeshimon? Now, O king, come down whenever your soul desires, and we will be responsible for delivering him into your hand." "May you be blessed by the Lord," replied Saul, "for you have had compassion on me. Please go and prepare further. Investigate and watch carefully where he goes and who has seen him there, for I am told that he is extremely cunning. Observe and find out all the places where he hides. Then come back to me with certainty, and I will go with you. If he is in the land, I will search him out among all the clans of Judah." So they set out and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon in the Arabah south of Jeshimon, and Saul and his men went to seek him. When David was told about it, he went down to the rock and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard of this, he pursued David there. Saul was proceeding along one side of the mountain, and David and his men along the other side. Even though David was hurrying to get away, Saul and his men were closing in on David and his men to capture them. Then a messenger came to Saul, saying, "Come quickly, for the Philistines have raided the land." So Saul broke off his pursuit of David and went to meet the Philistines. That is why that place is called Selah Hamalekoth. And David went up from there and lived in the strongholds of En-Gedi. 1 Samuel chapter 24. After Saul had returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, "David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi." So Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and went to look for David and his men in the region of the rocks of the wild goats. Soon Saul came to the sheepfolds along the road where there was a cave, and he went in to relieve himself. And David and his men were hiding in the recesses of the cave. So David's men said to him, "This is the day about which the Lord said to you, 'Behold, I will deliver your enemy into your hand, that you may do with him as you wish.'" Then David crept up secretly and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David's conscience was stricken because he had cut off the corner of Saul's robe. So he went to his men. "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed. May I never lift my hand against him, since he is the Lord's anointed." With these words David restrained his men, and he did not let them rise up against Saul. Then Saul left the cave and went on his way. After that David got up, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, "My lord, the king!" When Saul looked behind him, David bowed face down in reverence and said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Look, David intends to harm you'? Behold, this day you have seen with your own eyes that the Lord delivered you into my hand in the cave. I was told to kill you, but I spared you and said, 'I will not lift up my hand against my Lord, since he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, look at the corner of your robe in my hand, for I cut it off, but I did not kill you. See and know that there is no evil or rebellion in my hands. I have not sinned against you, even though you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord take vengeance on you, but my hand will never be against you. As the old proverb says, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand will never be against you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom are you pursuing? A dead dog? A flea? May the Lord be our judge and decide between you and me. May he take notice and plead my case and deliver me from your hand. When David had finished saying these things, Saul called back, Is that your voice, David my son? Then Saul wept aloud and said to David, You are more righteous than I, for you have rewarded me with good, though I have rewarded you with evil. And you have shown this day how well you have dealt with me. For when the Lord delivered me into your hand, you did not kill me. When a man finds his enemy, does he let him go away unharmed? May the Lord reward you with good for what you have done for me this day. Now I know for sure that you will be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hands. So now swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants or wipe out my name from my father's house. So David gave his oath to Saul. Then Saul returned home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold. 1 Samuel chapter 25. When Samuel died, all Israel gathered to mourn for him, and they buried him at his home in Ramah. Then David set out and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel. He was a very wealthy man with 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband, a Calebite, was harsh and evil in his dealings. While David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So David sent 10 young men and instructed them, Go up to Nabal at Carmel, greet him in my name, and say to him, Long life to you, and peace to you and your house, and to all that belongs to you. Now I hear that it is time for shearing. When your shepherds were with us, we did not harass them, and nothing of theirs was missing the whole time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. So let my young men find favor with you, for we have come on the day of a feast. Please give whatever you can afford to your servants and to your son David. When David's young men arrived, they relayed all these words to Nabal on behalf of David. Then they waited. But Nabal asked them, Who is David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants these days are breaking away from their masters. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I have slaughtered for my shearers, and give them to these men whose origin I do not know? So David's men turned around and went back, and they relayed to him all these words. And David said to his men, Strap on your swords. So David and all his men put on their swords, and about 400 men followed David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. Meanwhile, one of Nabal's young men informed Nabal's wife, Abigail, Look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but he scolded them. Yet these men were very good to us. When we were in the field, we were not harassed, and nothing of ours went missing the whole time we lived among them. They were a wall around us both day and night, the whole time we were herding our sheep near them. Now consider carefully what you must do, because disaster looms over our master and all his household. For he is such a scoundrel that nobody can speak to him. Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 butchered sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs. She loaded them on donkeys, and said to her young men, "Go ahead of me. I will be right behind you." But she did not tell her husband, Nabal. As Abigail came riding her donkey into a mountain ravine, she saw David and his men coming down toward her, and she met them. Now David had just finished saying, "In vain I have protected all that belonged to this man in the wilderness. Nothing that belongs to him has gone missing, yet he has paid me back evil for good. May God punish David and ever so severely if I let one of Nabal's men survive until morning." When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off the donkey, fell face down, and bowed before him. She fell at his feet and said, "My lord, may the blame be on me alone, but please let your servant speak to you. Hear the words of your servant. My lord should pay no attention to this scoundrel Nabal, for he lives up to his name. His name means fool, and folly accompanies him. I, your servant, did not see my lord's young men whom you sent. Now, my lord, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and avenging yourself with your own hand. May your enemies and those who seek harm for my lord be like Nabal. Now let this gift your servant has brought to my lord be given to the young men who follow you. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord will surely make a lasting dynasty for my lord, because he fights the Lord's battles. May no evil be found in you as long as you live. And should someone pursue you and seek your life, then the life of my lord will be bound securely by the Lord your God in the bundle of the living. But he shall fling away the lives of your enemies like stones from a sling. When the Lord has done for my lord all the good he promised, and when he has appointed you ruler over Israel, then my lord will have no remorse or guilt of conscience over needless bloodshed and revenge. And when the Lord has dealt well with my lord, may you remember your maidservant." Then David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you to meet me this day. Blessed is your discernment, and blessed are you, because today you kept me from bloodshed and from avenging myself by my own hand. Otherwise, as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, who has restrained me from harming you, if you had not come quickly to meet me, then surely no male belonging to Nabal would have been left alive by morning light." Then David accepted from her hand what she had brought him, and he said to her, "Go home in peace. See, I have heeded your voice and granted your request." When Abigail returned to Nabal, there he was in the house, holding a feast fit for a king, in high spirits and very drunk. So she told him nothing until morning light. In the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him about these events, and his heart failed within him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal dead. On hearing that Nabal was dead, David said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has upheld my cause against the reproach of Nabal, and has restrained his servant from evil. For the Lord has brought the wickedness of Nabal down upon his own head." Then David sent word to Abigail, asking for her in marriage. When his servants came to Abigail at Carmel, they said, "David has sent us to take you as his wife." She arose, then bowed face down and said, "Here is your maidservant, ready to serve and to wash the feet of my lord's servants." So Abigail hurried and got on a donkey, and attended by 5 of her maidens, she followed David's messengers and became his wife. David had also married Ahinoam of Jezreel, so she and Abigail were both his wives. But Saul had given his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Palti, son of Laish, who was from Galim. All right, that closes out 1 Samuel readings for today. Now we turn to the Psalter, and there are 4 psalms for us to read today, the first one being Psalm 34. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. My soul boasts in the Lord. Let the oppressed hear and rejoice. Magnify the Lord with me, Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant with joy. Their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man called out, and the Lord heard him. He saved him from all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Fear the Lord, you his saints, for those who fear him lack nothing. Young lions go lacking and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Come, children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who delights in life, who desires to see good days? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from deceitful speech. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are inclined to their cry. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to wipe out all memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves the contrite in spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them will be broken. Evil will slay the wicked, and the haters of the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems his servants, and none who take refuge in him will be condemned. Psalm 52. Why do you boast of evil, O mighty man? The loving devotion of God endures all day long. Your tongue devises destruction like a sharpened razor, O worker of deceit. You love evil more than good, falsehood more than speaking truth. Selah. You love every word that devours, O deceitful tongue. Surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. He will snatch you up and tear you away from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living. Selah. The righteous will see and fear. They will mock the evildoer, saying, Look at the man who did not make God his refuge, but trusted in the abundance of his wealth, and strengthened himself by destruction. But I am like an olive tree flourishing in the house of God. I trust in the loving devotion of God forever and ever. I will praise you forever because you have done it. I will wait on your name, for it is good in the presence of your saints. Psalm 54. Save me, O God, by your name, and vindicate me by your might. Hear my prayer, O God. Listen to the words of my mouth. For strangers rise up against me, and ruthless men seek my life, men with no regard for God. Selah. Surely God is my helper. The Lord is the sustainer of my soul. He will reward my enemies with evil. In your faithfulness, destroy them. Freely I will sacrifice to you. I will praise your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble. and my eyes have stared down my foes. All right, finally, Psalm 56. Be merciful to me, O God, for men are hounding me. All day they press their attack. My enemies pursue me all day long, for many proudly assail me. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? All day long they twist my words. All their thoughts are on my demise. They conspire, they lurk, they watch my steps, while they wait to take my life. In spite of such sin, will they escape? In your anger, O God, cast down the nations. You have taken account of my wanderings. Put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Then my enemies will retreat on the day I cry for help. By this I will know that God is on my side. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Your vows are upon me, O God. I will render thank offerings to you. For you have delivered my soul from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Can you imagine what it's like to be David and to be hounded by Saul and Doeg the Edomite and all the followers of those who wish to kill you, and you get your chance to be liberated and take the throne, and you don't take it because you fear the Lord more than man? It's quite a testament to righteousness. There's a reason why David is just such an exceptional figure. And there's much wisdom in learning from his witness. All right, well, it was good time spent today. If you don't know, the Psalms were written by David. And so these meditations upon enemies and people seeking his life and Lord taking revenge for him, this is David writing it almost certainly in response to what he's going through with Saul, which we're reading. So just a lot of rich depth in the different connecting points of the scriptures and the different hyperlinks between the different books. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. All right, that'll conclude our time today. God bless you.